Hi guys, welcome to my October reading wrap-up. October was a really good reading month, as is not surprising because October just has all the reading vibes. Bring up the cozy sweaters, you got the fireplace going, you got your hot drinks, you got the leaves falling off the trees, and it's just a perfect reading month. So I didn't get to all the books on my TBR / pile of possibilities. That's okay. I got a lot read, I enjoyed a lot, really didn't like a few. Yeah, so I have a nicely organized spread today. I'm going to share a little bit about two books I'm currently reading. They're just going to continue over into November, but I want to touch on them. 4 books I DNF'd, 2 stars, 4 3 stars, 5 4 stars, and 5 5 stars. Now, I decided this time not to do half stars. In my reading journal, I have written half stars. But I just thought it would make this easy, and so I rounded mostly up, sometimes down. So for my reading journal, I'm still using, I have this in a huge binder because I have my line of day in here. But I created this printable reading journal a few months ago, and I'm using that. What I am using though is, I've recently added this to the file, so if you have already purchased it, I have 3 spots for books instead of 2. It gives you less space to write down a review, but honestly, I don't really write a ton for the review. I just want to keep track of books that I read. Oh, and this reading journal just reminded me, I have one more 4-star than what I said because it was on audio. Let's see if I can remember to talk about that. And I don't have the physical book. Yeah, so I like the reading journal, so I shared a video. I called it a reading journal. What I meant was a few weeks ago when I shared that mixed media reading journal, it was just a space for me to write down the books that were on my TBR, not really to document what I've read. I didn't explain that very well. Anyway, let's get into this. Let's talk about 2 books quickly that I'm currently reading. So, my current audiobook is The Deceivers. This is book 2 in the Greystone Secrets. It is a middle grade sci-fi series, and I finally installed Scribd again, so I have a 60-day free trial. I really like it for their audiobooks. My library, for whatever reason, wasn't getting this second book on audio, and I wanted to continue it on audio, so yeah. We follow 3 kids, Chess, Emma, and Finn. Their mom goes missing, and I really like, it flips back and forth between characters, and I really like these little pictures. So there's Finn, I think he's 8. Emma is, I think maybe like 5th grade, and then Chess is in grade 6, I believe. Yeah, so I really enjoyed book 1. So far I'm enjoying book 2. Not a ton has happened yet, but I'm that far. So I'm reading that. I'll talk more about that in my November wrap-up. And I am like just soaking, marinating myself in Anne of Windy Poplars. Some people mentioned that the series kind of starts going downhill with this book, and so far I have not found that personally. I am just loving it. Yeah, so I am like 2/3 of the way through. I've dog-eared some pages because I want to tab those and highlight things and stuff, but I was just lazy. I dog-eat pages, I don't break spines. That's where I draw the line. Yeah, so this is Anne. She is teaching and waiting for Gilbert to finish medical school. So a lot of it is letters to Gilbert and just some of the funny antics that happen in this town. And I'm loving these vibes. Okay, on to my DNFs. 4 DNFs. And these are not all because they're bad. Although this one is. I have the poetry of Jane Austen and the Austen family. I got this book at a library sale, super cheap a long time ago. And since I was wanting all the poetry lately, I was like, well, let's try this book. And I do not like her poetry. Like, most of this poetry that she's written was written to people for a specific reason, like an event in their life or whatever. And I'm not a fan of her poetry. So yeah, I quit that one. I did start reading This Present Darkness with Oshina. This was going to be a reread for me, and for whatever reason, I just couldn't really get into it. I think because I had so many other books on my TBR that I was really excited about, and I had read this one before that I just wasn't really interested. So I think I'm just going to put this series on my bookshelf upstairs where my like read books are. And if I ever want to pick it up again, I can. But I don't know, wasn't in the mood, even though I know I really liked it the first time. Then I started A Place Called Perfect. I love this cover. And honestly, it was just kind of like, meh. I could have pushed through, but I just had other books that were more important. So this one is about a town where people go blind when you get there, but then everything is perfect. You just need their special glasses or something. It was a cool idea, but just it didn't really suck me in. And then also The Sacred Lives of Minnow Bly. I was reading this weekend. I got almost 100 pages in, and this is a cultish book, which piques my interest, of course. It's about a girl who is arrested because she has beat up a boy, and this girl has no hands, like her hands have been chopped off, and she comes from the Kevinian cult. They follow a guy named Kevin, and she goes and is put into juvie, and that's kind of where I'm at. And I feel like if someone told me this book is really good, I could press on, but right now it's just meh, and I'm kind of feeling like I just want to read books that I'm like really loving, so I'm gonna DNF this one for now. Okay, now onto the books that I have like actually finished. Let's start with my 2 stars. Okay, first of all, this one, The Case of the Hijacked Moon. I did a reading vlog about this. This is a book I probably shouldn't have finished. I probably should have DNF'd it, but like I said in my reading vlog, it was kind of just like a train wreck, like you just couldn't look away. So this is supposed to be a spin-off of Sherlock, but Sherlock's grandnephew is a Christian, and he's the world's greatest Christian detective. Oh, this is so cheesy. It was just so cheesy. Like, the Christianity was just like, it was so bad. It was so bad. This makes me almost embarrassed to be called a Christian because of this book. Oh, yeah. I talked about it more in my reading vlog. I'm not going to talk about it anymore now. This just needs to leave my house. And then I finally picked up The Monogram Murders. Originally, I thought this was by Agatha Christie because, you know, like, her name is in huge print, but no, it's by Sophie Hannah. It is a new Hercule Poirot mystery story, and yeah, Kendra Christine, I remember she read this one a while ago, and she really enjoyed it, so I had high hopes, but I really did not. Although there was something that was funny. Oh yeah, there was this guy. He was became a hermit, and he saw no one, wrote to no one, received no letters. All he did was read books and stare into space. That doesn't sound too bad. Introvert problems. Yeah, okay, so I didn't really like the writing. The narrator is a detective, fairly new detective at Scotland Yard, and he kind of gets sucked into this case with Poirot. And I also listened to the audiobook for 1 hour while I was driving, because I wanted to finish the book but needed to drive, and the audiobook was terrible. And then what I normally like about Agatha Christie books is she does leave a trail and you can figure it out. And this book, the mystery, so there was 3 people killed in a hotel in 3 separate rooms, but killed or laid out exactly the same way, so it's obviously like the same person that killed them. And it sounded interesting, but there are characters in here who just lie all the time, so you can't solve the mystery because you can't trust what they're saying. And I like it when, even though I'm terrible at solving the mystery, I like it when I could have figured it out, and I don't think there's a way that you could have with this one. It was all just, even by the end, I'm like, I don't even know how this is going to work out. Yeah, so I didn't like that one. Okay, on to my 3 stars. This one was kind of disappointing. This one was very disappointing. I thought this was gonna be a 5-star. This is The Pawn by Stephen James. This is a, what is it? It's like a suspense thriller kind of book. Thriller, it says right on the cover. Where our detective guy, I always kind of forget, he's kind of part of the FBI. He's something special. Anyway, he gets sucked into this mystery with a serial killer. And this is a series, so it doesn't end with this book. It continues. A few things wrap up, but obviously you need to continue the series. But what I really didn't like was how gory this book was. I don't know, and I'm not always, you'll see, like, I can read books with gore, I can skim over it, but this one like just like jumped right in, and yeah, I don't know. Plus there was a lot of the story takes place in the viewpoint of the serial killer, and it doesn't really tell you who the serial, kind of does though. Yeah, I don't know, I just don't like the way it was written, because I like to not know things, but to have been able to figure things out, and this one gives you too much information, but yeah. So I am going to try book 2, because some people say that it gets better. I'm willing to give it another try, but I didn't really like this one. Like, the ending made up for the rest of the book, but still just kind of like a little bit on the fence with that. Then, I don't know how to rate this kind of book. This is The Sweet Life, Reflections on Home and Garden. A subscriber, Emily, sent this to me, and it's a really cute book with cute illustrations. It's all about, it's a collection of verses, really, verses like poems and quotes about the home and the garden, and just filled with these cute little illustrations. So it was a fun little read. Most of the quotes are from books or people from like about the 1800s, give or take a little bit. So that was really cool, and made me kind of jot down a few different books and people I wanted to look up and maybe read some of their stuff. So that I enjoyed this one, but like, yeah, I don't really know how you rate a collection of verses. My next 3-star is Whose Body by Dorothy L. Sayers. So this is a mystery, a whodunit mystery, where we follow a guy named Lord Peter. So he's just like a rich guy, not a detective. So I like that aspect of the book, and this was written in 1923, and I struggled a bit with the language, but so they find a body in the bathtub of some guy's house, and then there's also another guy that's missing, and there's like 2 mysteries, you know, are gonna intertwine somehow, but you don't really know how. Yeah, so I enjoyed it, but I also found it kind of hard to read. Yeah, someone commented that like there's some like kind of like more pop culture references maybe from the 1920s that make this a little bit harder to understand maybe. So I'm curious to read more of Dorothy Sayers' books. This one was like a decent start, I guess. Sorry that my throat sounds so funny. Like I just can't get rid of this cold. Okay, and my last book 3, this one and this next one I read it during the Hey Reader-a-thon, and this one is Dracula. So Dracula, I mean, we all kind of know the story. Vampire, Count Dracula. There was so much more to it. Like, the part that I knew about this book was over by like page 64, I think, and so I didn't know the rest of the story. Yeah, so 3-star is like pretty mediocre. I am not really interested in vampire stories. I like sci-fi. I can do aliens, but vampires are kind of like just out of my element. I'm glad I read this, since this is such a classic, and I don't know, the beginning, I feel like, for the most part, but not really one I want to reread. Okay, now on to my 4 stars. I seriously was coughing less until I started filming this video. Now I just can't stop coughing. Okay, first one here. This is Deadly Curious. So this is a Sherlock kind of spin-off, not spin-off, a Sherlock vibes book. Our main character, what was her name? Sophia Thompson. She wants to be a Bow Street runner, and so she wants to be a detective in the 1830s. And oh wow, I read this one. This was the first book I read at the beginning of October. And when you read so many other books, it's amazing how much you forget. Yeah, so she goes to her cousin's house for it's supposed to be like a month-long vacation, but she wants to go to solve a mystery because her cousin went missing or was murdered. Yeah, no, he died, and the sister is being something suspicious, so she wanted the cousin to come and look into this because she knows she's kind of like dabbling into things. So like Whose Body, I like it when we've just got like average people that are kind of trying to solve mysteries. I had fun with this. This is like a YA. I give it 4 stars. I was hoping there would be more in this series, And then I found out that the author actually passed away like in the last year. But she does have some other books that I might be interested in trying out. Yeah, it felt very Sherlock-esque. There was clues left. I don't think it was, because it's set in like the 1800s. Some of the stuff felt like maybe she hadn't researched the time period like 100%. I'm just getting a bunch of messages apparently. But I had fun with this read. Probably should have turned my phone off before we started filming. Okay, next 4-star is We Have Always Lived in the Castle. Guys, I don't know. I really like Shirley Jackson. Yeah, this one felt like a classic. Like I felt like I didn't really know what was going on for part of it, but I trusted Shirley Jackson enough to go along with it. So we follow Mary Catherine is our narrator, and she lives with her sister Constance and her uncle Julian. Her sister Constance was accused but acquitted of poisoning their parents, their aunt, and their cousin. And yeah, the book has some like creepy vibes. You know, something's not right in this house. The Uncle Julian is writing a manuscript. He's got some kind of like dementia. Something's not right in his head. He was poisoned actually, but he recovered. So it might be because of the poisoning. But he wants to write a story about what happened that day. And but he's just kind of like scattered, and it's interesting. I don't know. Shirley Jackson. It's kind of gothic horror. It's kind of creepy, but it's not scary. There were times that I was cracking up because they barely ever had visitors. They would let a few people in, or a few people would be interested in coming. And like one time this lady was asking all these really, really awkward questions. And at the same time was terrified to eat the food in case she got poisoned. And it was kind of funny. Yeah, I like Shirley Jackson's kind of like dark humor. Continuing on, What I Carry. Quite a few of you were interested in what I had to say about this book. So this one is a YA story about a girl that's aging out of foster care, and 4 stars. So I really enjoyed it. Man, I'm so bad with names. Her name's Muriel, and oh, there was a lot I liked about this book. I will say there is a disclaimer that there is quite a bit of swearing. For the most part, I do not feel like it was excessive. I mean, it's a YA book following a YA character who's aging out of foster care. It felt suitable for the situation, but I know some people really don't like to read about swearing, so I wanted to put that disclaimer out there. But our main character, Muriel, she tries to be pretty much perfect. She does not want anything against her. She doesn't want strikes against her. She knows she's going to be aging out. She knows the odds against her when she's aging out. So she wants to just kind of like fly under the radar, do the thing, get out, try to like survive. But in the process of this, trying to not ruffle any feathers, she also doesn't get attached to anyone. I think she'd been in like 17 or 20 homes in the last, like, since she was born. And she doesn't want to get attached to anyone. And so she wants to survive, but not love anyone. And that has consequences too. So what I really liked, this book felt a little bit like too real for it just to be completely made up. So when I was reading the acknowledgements at the end, it turns out that this author's daughter, or one of her daughters, was adopted out of foster care. Oh, it's in the author's note. Her daughter was born into foster care and lived in 3 foster placements before they met. She's too young to remember, but who she is now was shaped by how her life began and continued within the foster care system. She said she never read a book about a life she recognized, which according to her meant less people being molested all day and setting the house on fire, and more people getting used to new houses and people, and everyone isn't perfect or evil, but sometimes there's happiness. So that's kind of what the book is. It's not like this girl's time in foster care hasn't been terrible, but yeah. So I would recommend this if you are interested in anything to do with foster care and are okay with reading some swearing. Oh, also this book is set like in the forest, and she loves going on like nature walks, and this is just like the vibe and the atmosphere I'm going for these days, so I totally drank up all the parts of that. Moving right along, a quick one I read is The Haunting at Bonaventure Circus. This was my last Jimmy Jo Wright book to read. Now I've officially read everything that she has written, so now I have to wait till April till she writes more. true to her writing style, this is a dual timeline, 1928 and present day. I think it's 28, around there. Yeah, I got it right. And both timelines have to do with this Bonaventure Circus. So the 1928, we follow Pippa, her father, and her fiance, I guess it is, own the Bonaventure Circus, and they're running that. Things are happening. This is a time when women just got the vote, I think, and her dad is kind of like oppressive, and so is her fiance. The guy's not cool. And she's very meek. She was left at her parents' doorstep when she was little, and it was someone from the circus that brought her there. So she feels like she was not even worthy for the circus people, like just like the ultimate cast off. Then present day, we've got Chandler, who just bought the grounds, the circus grounds, and they want to make it into something else with her company. But she's kind of like stumbling across this mystery. So back in the 20s, there was a serial killer that somehow had something to do with the circus. Like a few of the places that they went, women were murdered. And so Chandler is trying to like look into this. And oh man, like there's so much that goes on in Jamie Jo Wright books, honestly. So this time I feel like some of the themes here are chronic illness. Chandler's got autoimmune disease, I think. And someone with autoimmune disease is like represent. And then Pippa has a deformed leg of some sort. I'm not sure if it's like a club foot or what exactly it is. And then one of the big messages I really liked, was it her author note? I think it was her acknowledgements. Those are so fun to read, you guys. If you don't read author's notes and acknowledgements, I mean, I don't always, but I would suggest it. So what I really liked, one of Jamie Jo Wright's main themes in this book, what it says here: to you, my readers, always, always know you are born with a purpose, that you are not hidden, that you are seen, that you will be fought for by the one who breathed you into being. So that's kind of like the overall message here. And I won't talk anymore because I feel like there's so much that comes out and unravels. So yeah, I'll highly recommend this one. I still have 2 more 4 stars yet. Let's do this one next. So I listened to The Shadow Throne, which I finally figured out I am not insane, you guys. I keep calling this the Ascendance Trilogy. That is because I have read all 3 books so far on audio, and they always call it the Ascendance Trilogy. Even though book 5 just came out, apparently it was supposed to be a trilogy. And then, for some reason, it continued on. I feel like it really wraps up with this book. Like, you could totally stop here. And I've heard from some people that that's a good idea, you should stop there. My daughter still is continuing on, and so I will probably continue on. So, in book 1, we follow a guy named Sage who was kind of like bought by this guy. Him and a couple guys were bought by this guy. They were orphans, and he wants to pass. He's training them to pass as the prince who disappeared or died. He bought guys that looked kind of like the prince, so he's going to train them, and then he's going to pick the best one, and that one's going to try to be the imposter for the prince. And so now we're just continuing on. So that one. And my last 4-star is Hairpin Bridge by Taylor Adams. So when did this one come out? I read No Exit last year. Okay, so this is his new one. This is from this year. I read No Exit last year, and if you like that kind of thriller, I think you'll like this one. Because Taylor Adams definitely writes, it's a little bit gory at times. No Exit was as well. If you can kind of like, either if you can read that or like skim over that like I do, his books are so fast paced. I don't know, I read this so quickly. So this one is actually very uniquely written. So our main character is Lena. Her twin sister, identical twin sister, whose name I'm totally blanking on, Cambry, was committed suicide at Hairpin Bridge. And Lena doesn't think that Cambry committed suicide. She thinks she was murdered. So she goes to Hairpin Bridge and meets the officer that found her body and wants to get the full story. And why this one is uniquely written. So you're seeing like present what's happening with Lena while she's talking to the officer. But then she has always told Cambry that she was going to write her story. She's a writer, I guess. And so we flip back and forth between her being present and to her writing Cambry's story. And you don't know if, while you're reading Cambry's story, if it's true or if this is just what Lena has said or thinks. So that's interesting. And then also you flip between kind of like a blog post. So before she went to go meet this officer, Lena wrote a blog post scheduled to be published. And she pretty much says, I think it's right at the beginning. Let me just make sure I'm not going to... I don't want to give anything away. Something suspicious is happening. Yeah, I don't think I can say that. Okay, fine. The one thing I'll say is that, yeah, she thinks something is sketchy. Let's just go on with that. She thinks that Cambry didn't kill herself for various reasons. And yeah, so this is a fast read. So you flip back and forth between present to the story she has written to the blog post that she has written. And yeah, I flew through it. And I will just continue to read Taylor Adams stories, even though they're a little bit gruesome for me. He's got a very creative mind. Yeah, popping in because, as I predicted, I did forget the audiobook. Seriously, if the physical book is not in front of me, I don't remember anything, which is why I'm so bad at reading ebooks. The audiobook that I listened to, I gave 4 stars, and that was The Scourge by Jennifer A. Nielsen. You can like still see my like disaster from before. Yes, so this one we follow a girl named Ani who lives in this world where it's kind of like separated by the townsfolk and the river people. The river people call the townsfolk pinchworms, and the pinchworms call the riverfolk grubs. And there is a scourge, a pandemic pretty much, going through the place. This was written pre-COVID, for the record. And if you get the scourge, you are brought to what used to be a prison island, and no one comes back. So our main character, Ani, is incredibly feisty, and she doesn't put up for status quo. She knows something sketchy is going on, and she's determined to get to the bottom of it. I listened to this book on audio, and the narrator did a great job. I knew there was more going on. Like, it wasn't super surprising in some ways because it's middle grade, so it's not like, wow, that's a mind-blowing part. But I really enjoyed the book, had a fun time reading it, and 4 stars, so I would recommend it. Now, back to the other books that I actually remember to talk about. Okay, now let's go on to 5 stars. I think I've talked quite a bit about these ones already. My first one is The Lost Spells by Robert Macfarlane. This is a collection of animal poetry. No, there's some nature poetry, let's say. There are poems about fox, and there's crows, but then there's moths, and there's daisies, I think, in this one, and trees. So Robert Macfarlane writes a lot of poetry, or a lot about nature in general, and the illustrations in here are stunning. I love this book. I talked about it in a reading vlog, and really want to buy this one. Then I also talked about this one like too much maybe this last month, I don't know. North and South. This was my pick for Victober. And I can't believe I liked it, and I can't believe like I was picking this book up over other books that I should have liked more. This is just a story following, oh man, why am I so bad at character names? Margaret Hale. She moves from the south of England to the north of England. Moves from this like beautiful countryside to this like smoky industrial town, and we just kind of follow her. And I don't normally like that kind of book, but Elizabeth Gaskell's not afraid to kill everyone off, which makes things a little bit more exciting maybe than something like Middlemarch that had me like clawing out my eyes from boredom. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Not much happens, but I enjoyed it. And then of course in this category has to be The Lottery and Other Stories by Shirley Jackson. I read a few of the short stories this time. I'm determined I will not read more of these short stories until I buy this book. So yeah, I want to read them all, enjoy them all. Some of them are like better or like more surprising than others, but I still enjoy all of them. Yeah, some of them are like 4 pages long. Some of them are more gothic horror, some of them are not that genre at all. I don't know, but I enjoy it. Okay, 2 more books left. The Thursday Murder Club. I raved and raved and raved about this one in a newsletter that I sent out and in a reading vlog. So this is we follow a bunch of people in a retirement village who form a murder club where they just like try to solve old murders. But they actually stumble into one, become caught up in one, and I thought I knew where the author was going with the story, and I was like, okay, cool, like I like that ending. And then he went a completely different direction and I was like, wow, I like that ending even better. Yeah, so this is probably like one of the most commented books that I've like ever talked about. A lot of people were either going to pick it up after I was raving about it or have really enjoyed it themselves. Also, if you saw the reading vlog, you see when I find out who wrote this book, Richard Osman. I still haven't watched any more BBC. I'm thinking after NaNoWriMo, I am going to get the BritBox subscription for a month or 2 and watch a bunch of BBC stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I love this book. And apparently book 2 is even better, so I'm still debating, do I pick it up on audio or do I buy a physical copy? I'm not sure. But if you enjoy this book, I hear book 2 is even better. Oh, I want to say too, one of the characters that we follow, she writes in diary format. Her name, Joyce. Yeah. She writes in diary format and she just writes it like this like perfect old lady, like she's talking about something, and then she's supposed to be talking about the murder, but then also she's talking about these shops that she goes to, and then she's like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be talking about this. And I talk more about it in my reading vlog if you want to hear more of my thoughts. But I highly recommend this one. If you like whodunit mysteries and you just want to go like have a fun ride, this is definitely one. Okay, and then my last book, a 5-star. I did not see this 5-star coming, even though so many people told me they liked this one, and it was odd to me. Maybe some of the people that said it, like, oh, okay. Anyway, that's The Host. So this is a sci-fi book by Stephenie Meyer, who wrote Twilight, which I'm not interested in reading because vampires, not really. I feel like I can cross vampires off my list. But aliens, apparently that's my thing. So in this one, the Earth has been invaded by aliens, and what aliens are doing is they can cut people at the back of their neck and take out their soul. Do they actually remove anything? I don't know. They insert a soul. Yeah, they insert a soul. I don't think they take anything out. And then the aliens just have control of the body. And so our main character, her name is Wanderer. She has taken over this body, but Melanie, whose body it is still in there fighting. And instead of like kind of quieting her, well, she's kind of unable to, but Slash kind of doesn't want to. Wanderer kind of becomes friends with Melanie, and things ensue. Yeah, I don't know. I listened to this one on audio. Highly recommend it. I heard that there's some dry spells, but with the audio, I don't know. I didn't notice. I loved it. And this makes me want to read more sci-fi. So please give me more sci-fi recommendations, please. But not classic sci-fi. I still haven't found any of those that I like. Anyway, this has been an extremely long video, but October is my favorite reading month, and there you have it. That's what I read. Let me know some of your favorite things from October books, and let me know if you're interested in picking up any of these since I've been raving about them or not. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you soon.